these are my 10 takeaways after watching the all 22 from this morning. But first, let's start with the news. The Bills are firing a good head coach. McDermott, I think he's definitely good. Frustrating at times. Yeah, probably so. Is everything his fault? I just wouldn't say that's the case here. He's also been improving to me. If you look at his tenure, where you see typically a defensive-minded head coach, they're way too conservative. Over the last couple seasons, he's actually been very aggressive on fourth downs. It helps when you have somebody like Josh Allen in short yards, but he's actually top 3 in fourth down aggressiveness, according to runningbacks.don'tmatter.com. And I felt that, where you just see him kind of at the forefront of doing the tush push and kind of being ahead with that. And then defensively, where he's calling the plays, you feel the game plans. Like, there's some times where they'll do a bunch of drop 8 in playoff games, and that'll work. There are times where you get a bunch of post-snap rotations, which require a lot of communication. And I think that he's been excellent at that. In fact, I think that he's actually outcoached his talent on his side of the ball for a very long time. The reality is the Bills haven't had a good pass rusher in a very, very long time. Brandon Beane, the GM, who just not only got retained, but he actually got promoted. I think the draft classes have been pretty bad. And on top of that, they gave Von Miller a huge contract a couple off seasons ago. That didn't work. They bring in Joey Bosa, and Joey Bosa this offseason gets a big contract, $12 million. And not only no shows in the playoffs, but this game was actually bad and hurt the Buffalo Bills. The Amari Cooper trade, that didn't do anything. And then in this season, they could have added Rashid Shaheed for a 3rd-round pick, Jacoby Myers for a 3rd-round pick. And this is the year where they really needed the wide receiver depth to show up. So very frustrating for the Buffalo Bills. In the playoff games, their point differential is actually at plus 44 in the Josh Allen era, yet they have 3 overtime losses. That's bad luck. That's just running into Patrick Mahomes. And this one, some brutal mistakes from Josh Allen. This offseason, they're going to have to, replace their head coach. They're going to have to replace their offensive line coach who just retired. They have multiple starters on the offensive line, multiple starters on the defensive line, multiple starters in the secondary that they all have to replace. They don't have a ton of cap space. They're going to restructure the Josh Allen deal and open up some cap space there. But they actually have a decent amount of holes here. And that brings me to the Brandon Beane part of this conversation, where I just don't understand why you would keep him around. This should be a perfect spot to kind of reset. You're very frustrated with this. You have Josh Allen. This is the year where there's a bunch of turnover based off the roster. And let's get some new ideas into the building. So a couple of names just throw out there for offensive play caller / head coach, because I do think they'll probably go offense here just because they've done defensive head coach for the entire Josh Allen era. Joe Brady, obviously just promote within. Is that the option? Is it Davis Webb, somebody who was Josh Allen's backup, and then they offered him the quarterback coaching job while he was a player? Is he somebody that can go from offensive coordinator with the Broncos into a head coaching position? He's only 30 years old. That would be interesting. Is it one of the Rams guys who they're not going to be able to interview until those guys have been eliminated? Who knows? It can't be Brian Daboll here, but this is just a big, big offseason for the Buffalo Bills. Not just because their head coach was fired, but also because the roster has a lot of turnover. Takeaway number 2, Josh Allen played a C game, and that's why the Bills got eliminated here. They're so reliant on Josh Allen. It's not even Josh Allen's fault, entirely, that they lost this one. He still made enough plays here. In fact, EPA per play wise, a 70th percentile outing for him. He runs for 66 yards. A lot of those are scrambles, but he's also going to be lethal in short yardage situations. In that first round game, he was fantastic. He almost threw a no-hitter, in my opinion, almost had 0 negative plays the entire game. In this one, there was just some classic Josh Allen mistakes. Going into halftime, this one was definitely his fault. If you look at the play call, flood concept, no timeouts, he could have either thrown the ball away or he can take off and scramble and just, slide and just go into halftime. Instead, he's trying to make a play. There's no plays to be made. Fumbles, not only does it fumble, the offensive lineman could have easily just slid and picked it up. Of course, that's not what he's paid to do. Ball goes to Denver for 3 points. That was the difference in the game. One of his interceptions, he pump fakes to get Talanoa Hufanga to kind of stand down, rotating safety down. And unfortunately, Josh Allen just misses the throw. I think it was the right decision, is the right pump fake. He just airmailed the pass. The other safety kind of slides in, undercuts it. That was an uncharacteristic miss for Josh Allen. The Dawson Knox play, potential game winner. Not an easy throw. I don't want to ding Josh Allen here, but that was one. big crossing route where if he does hit him in stride, he walks into the end zone. That's a game-winning play. So lots of just kind of big mistakes for Josh Allen here. I would call this a C game, but guess what? The Buffalo Bills' entire roster not good enough if Josh Allen is not playing A or B level football, and he just did not have it in this one. There's also a couple of weird plays in that game. Khalil Shakir chips Nick Bonito, but that kind of just like slingshots Nick Bonito around Deion Dawkins for a strip sack. And then that brings us to takeaway number 3. The Jaquan McMillan interception should absolutely count. I think everyone's just kind of overlooking this. If you're looking at screenshots, that does not paint the entire picture. You're just here to try to win internet arguments. The reality is, if you watch the entire video, that ball was coming out and Jaquan McMillan intercepts the pass. It was a fantastic play for Jaquan McMillan, who was just running from the other side of the field, chasing Brandon Cooks, was able to catch up to him and then also make the interception. But I want to just hit on Jaquan McMillan because the story is so damn inspiring here. We have an undrafted free agent player. He kind of bombs the combine. He's like, what, 5'9", runs a 4.6 in the 40-yard dash. He then makes it onto the Broncos roster. He gets waived as a rookie. They're just trying to find ways to replace this guy. He ends up somehow starting as a sophomore, has 3 seasons where he's a starter. Then they actually, replace him this offseason by drafting Jedi Barron, a first-round player out of Texas who can play in the nickel spot where Jaquan McMillan plays. He beats him out this training camp, beats him out, holds his job the entire season long, and then has this wild interception. So Jaquan McMillan, obviously the big storyline for the Broncos. You have that insane pass rush. You have Patrick Surtain. You have Riley Moss. But Jaquan McMillan, hell of a story, hell of an interception. Absolutely, it should be counting. Takeaway number 4, Bo Nix has already paid off his 12th overall pick draft capital. This game was phenomenal for Bo Nix. Just wanted to mention this. The Denver Broncos running backs had 10 carries this entire game. 10 carries. Bo Nix was the leading rusher in this one. And all the rest of the game, it was just Bo Nix having to make clean decisions. And for the most part, he absolutely did it. Bo Nix was definitely good on the ground, buying some time, but he was just very good inside the pocket. And that's been the criticism for Bo Nix. And I think Sean Payton called an excellent game, kind of coaching around the weaknesses for Bo Nix. But this is what you drafted him for, making some plays with your legs, but also throwing the ball down the field. Classic signature play from Bo Nix with Sean Payton. You have a little bit of a boot action, little Jordan Humphrey way down the field, deep post route for a big touchdown. It's actually like the same play that they ran in week 17 a couple seasons ago. Maybe the Bo Nix's best play of his entire career, throwing that ball way down the field. That's like a 60-yard pass. Same thing there. Their other signature play, just this dagger, and it's not like a backside dig that you see with Matthew Stafford. It's a front side concept. This is Sean Payton knowing what Bo Nix could offer. But on 3rd and 11 on the final drive, that big touchdown drive in regulation, 3rd and 11 to Cortland Sutton. That was a phenomenal pass through with some anticipation there. Love that one. We had a 3rd and 4 carry for a first down on that same drive, and then had that big dime pass to Marvin Mims. Then he breaks his ankle into overtime on a broken ankle, throws that moon ball to draw a defensive pass interference, takes a really awkward kneel down, does an interview after the game on one leg, and we finally get the news that Bo Nix is going to miss the rest of the season. I'm not sure if it's a setback to a college injury. He's already had ankle surgery. He called his former surgeon immediately after the game and got this one scheduled up immediately. So I don't want this to be a long-term issue for Bo Nix, but just a little bit of a side story here. That's the same ankle that has given him problems before. That brings us to Jarrett Stidham. Jarrett Stidham pretty much has 2 believers in this world, aside from, his parents and his girlfriend or wife or whatever the situation is. It's Josh McDaniels and Sean Payton, the 2 coaches that are going to be out there calling plays in the AFC Championship. Josh McDaniels was on staff when the Patriots signed him. He takes that Raiders job. One of the first things that Josh McDaniels does is trade for Jarrett Stidham. And then what does Sean Payton do? First day of free agency, when he was a Denver Bronco head coach, he signs Jarrett Stidham. Like, it was like all the most popular players in the NFL being signed that day, plus Jarrett Stidham. And then afterwards, they signed him to a big backup contract, and he's still under contract for this next season. And Sean Payton, immediately after the Bo Nix news, says that Jarrett Stidham is going to be able to play. There might be something to this. You know, we've seen Jarrett Stidham in this preseason where he's throwing the ball in structure down the field on time, and he's got a big arm. So like there was a couple downfield passes there. He was actually able to, break contain on one of these, step up, set his feet, and throw the ball downfield. Who knows? Like, is this a Nick Foles situation? I can see it. Could this be like Jacoby Brissett, where different styled quarterback, you can do different styled things with the offense? I would be interested in that. The good news for Jarrett Stidham, he has a great offensive line to work with. They might be able to get J.K. Dobbins or their backup center back in the lineup here. But I'm very curious to see what Jarrett Stidham has. I don't think this is a situation where we know for a fact the backup quarterback is really bad. There could be something to this Jarrett Stidham stuff. Maybe Sean Payton, Josh McDaniels knew all along. All right, number 5. The Seahawks offseason just keeps looking more and more outrageous. In this game, it was all about the defense here, but it was also like all the guys they just brought in. DeMarcus Lawrence, strip sack. He was just signed this offseason. Who recovers that strip sack? It's second round safety Nick Amanawari from this draft class, who's been fantastic. He's kind of been like the unlock nickel player where they can just pretty much do whatever because he's big enough to handle assignments in the ground game. He's fast enough to handle assignments out in coverage too. So those two guys have been phenomenal. Ernest Jones, they gave him a big long-term contract this offseason as well. He has an interception. He also punches the ball out for a forced fumble. So he was fantastic. Their first round pick, Gray Zabel, their left guard, he was fantastic in this one. A lot of big Kenneth Walker carries were either with Gray Zabel getting out in space or just running straight up right behind him as well. So he was fantastic in this one. Sam Darnold didn't have to do a whole lot here, but they were able to add him this offseason. And then Clint Kubiak got the ground game going here once again to like really pull away from the San Francisco 49ers. We'll see if Clint Kubiak's going to stay around. But that's a lot of offseason moves breaking the Seahawks way here. On top of that, you build for the future with the DK Metcalf trade, get some young players like Elijah Arroyo, those type of guys in the building. What's crazy about this is I was looking at cap space for next offseason. The Seattle Seahawks, I see their fourth most available cap space heading into next offseason. Their quarterback is retained. All the guys I just mentioned, including DeMarcus Lawrence, these guys are under contract. Byron Murphy, a draft pick from a couple drafts ago, defensive tackle. He's phenomenal. They got their tackles on offense. Those guys are under contract. JSN's under contract. Everyone is pretty much back except for Kenneth Walker and a couple other guys, Reek Woolen on defense. But I'm guessing they're just going to re-sign Kenneth Walker because we just got big news. Zach Charbonnet tears his ACL. So unrestricted free agent for Kenneth Walker, but just the fact that it's January 19th when we get the news that Zach Charbonnet is out for the season. That's probably going to linger into next offseason, next in-season as well. So I think the most likely outcome, now that I know they have all this cap space and this injury to deal with, Kenneth Walker probably going to be re-signed by the Seattle Seahawks, and we'll have to figure this out for fantasy. But for the rest of this postseason, Kenneth Walker, he's going to be their bell cow back. I can see Kenneth Walker winning a Super Bowl MVP. That's how good the Seahawks defense is. Typically, defensive players don't win Super Bowl MVPs. So is it Sam Darnold? Is it JSN? Is it Kenneth Walker? We'll figure out if the Seahawks can keep it up, because right now they do look like the best team in football.
I know it's that time of year. You just want to stay inside, do nothing on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But guess what? There's someone in your life that needs to get out, spread their wings, feel like they've accomplished something. And so if you don't have any ideas, what I'd love to do is pull up the SeatGeek app and see what's going on in my area. Like for me, Nate Bargatze is performing in a couple of days. Or I can go see Gunna. 2 different types of people at those events, most likely. Also, someone named Dijon is playing tonight. Look, that's what SeatGeek is great for. Finding new talent out there that maybe becomes your favorite artist. Or if you're struggling for some type of holiday gift, like SeatGeek already has events up for, next year. I can look up something that's coming in April or July, or Alex Warren on June 26th. That's what SeatGeek is good for, getting you or your significant other up out of their seat and making life a bit more enjoyable. Of course, I have a promo code for all of you guys. You can use code FANTASY10 for 10% off your next set of tickets at SeatGeek. That's 10% off any tickets, whether you use it for the first time or not, the app before or not, with promo code FANTASY10. Make sure you click the link in the description to download the app and have the code automatically added to your account so you can use it later. Thank you, SeatGeek.
Number 6, Caleb Williams is 4th in my watchability rankings. Obviously, Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar, when those guys are out there and playing their best football, it's hard to go away from those 3 guys. But to me, Caleb is like just as exciting. That's both good and bad for right now. Obviously, in this game, there were some terrible missed throws. He puts a lot of pepper on some of these passes. He was throwing that ball to the backup offensive tackle near the sideline and threw it about 96 miles per hour. I don't know why he does that. Sometimes when he breaks contain, he throws the ball way too fast. He plays a little bit too fast at times, plays a little bit too slow at times. I get it. He's not a top 5 quarterback yet. He might not even be a top 10 quarterback right now. But we're here for the out of structure plays. And obviously we have the one descended into overtime, the 4th and 4. If you look at that again, he's laying face down at the 45-yard line when Cole Kmet catches that pass. He's face down on the 45-yard line. It was the longest completion inside the red zone in terms of air yards in the next-gen stat era. Obviously, that's the headliner play. But there's also like just the simple plays out of structure, scrambling for a first down. When he presses the gas, he is running as quick as pretty much any quarterback in the league, aside from like Jaden Daniels and Lamar Jackson. His speed is outrageous. There's a lot to work on this offseason. The pass catchers also need a lot of polish. Like last week, we had the Luther Burden interception, just ran the wrong route. Rome Odunze dropped that touchdown in this one. DJ Moore on that back-breaking interception. He runs the wrong route and then, stops running on top of that. So that was a bad error by DJ Moore here. We'll see about DJ Moore's status with the Chicago Bears moving forward. He's not going to be cut just contractually. It's just not going to work out like that. But he can be traded. The Bears would save about $16 million if they can find a trade partner for DJ Moore. Of course, there's a lot of young quarterbacks that are looking for a number 2 or number 3 wide receiver in their offense. I do think DJ Moore could get traded, but really frustrating loss for the Chicago Bears. They could have pulled it off. They got so much out of their defense. This coaching staff is just so good. Ben Johnson, obviously on offense, but Dennis Allen, he called a ton of blitzes. It was a dangerous game plan to go with that in the regular season. The Rams were first in EPA against blitz looks. And then this one, they had Matthew Stafford perplexed. They had a bunch of guys coming at him. It was a fantastic game plan from him. Of course, and late in the game, they do bring pressure one-on-one to Puka Nacua, and that was a big play for the Rams offense. To me, this offseason, you need Caleb to improve the mistakes we talked about. The pass catchers have to have more polish than they had this year, but lots of excitement with Luther Burden, yards after the catch wise. Colston Loveland, he was phenomenal throughout the entire postseason. He had a rep against Jared Verse in this one-on-one, holding his own in pass protection. We talked about that play with Kyle Nungai the previous week where he was out there against a defensive end, holding his own. So there's a lot to like here with the Bears. They do need to add more beef on the defensive line. And this one, what really mattered for the Rams is they were just able to run the ball. The pass game was largely up and down because of those blitzes from Dennis Allen, but the ground game, Kyron Williams, Blake Corum, these guys are so consistently adding yards here. Another game for the Rams with over a 90th percentile rushing success rate. It's one of the all-time rushing success rate teams since we've been tracking that metric over there. So the Bears, they need more defensive line depth. They're going to have a lot of regression type of pieces coming out against why the season's not repeatable. But Caleb Williams takes a step. They add some beef on the defensive line. I do think this team will be back competing for an NFC North division title once again. Number 7, CJ Stroud lost his offseason extension in one half of football. And maybe that's a little bit unfair because he probably lost some money from just the last game with all the turnovers. But he's at the point where the Texans, they have the 5th-year option, just like the Carolina Panthers do with Bryce Young. And I don't think he's going to get an extension. They have other guys to get money to. I think that Nico Collins you could extend him once again because he's on a pretty cheap contract right now. Will Anderson's going to get a, infinite money bag coming up here. And I think that CJ Stroud has just really regressed over the last couple seasons. This game in particular, it was obviously the panic throws. You can't be throwing the ball because your backup tight end fell over when he's just kind of working across the offensive line. You can't have those plays. I thought what was so troubling with CJ Stroud recently was the ball placement was just not good enough. And I would say especially on the move, the interception over the middle, yes, it clanks off a wide receiver's hands. But on that one, the ball is up and away. He's kind of working up in the pocket. That ball gets away from him. On another play, he's inside the pocket, throws an interception. The ball was just 6-7 yards short, a very easy interception. And if you watch that one, he just doesn't have his feet set the entire time. So we can talk about the one where they finally get him outside of the structure of the play on a nice little bootleg, and he just throws the ball to the sideline right to a Patriots defender there as well. So there was just a bunch of bad ball in this one. It wasn't just the decision making to me, though. I couldn't believe how many passes he just straight up missed based off his accuracy. It felt like when he was playing as a rookie, his accuracy was top notch. I do think part of the problem is he was seeing flashes of color because the offensive line wasn't playing well. I've talked about the backup tight end. I've talked about the backup wide receivers. There was also no threat working down the field in this one because, Jaden Higgins is your outside receiver trying to work downfield. He's really not that fast. It looks a whole lot different when Nico Collins is out there than Jaden Higgins. And that's what made CJ Stroud so good, is throwing the ball downfield over the middle. And we just didn't have that with the Texans in the playoffs. Also wanted to mention what the hell DeMeco Ryans was doing there earlier in the game. 4th and 2, you're at the 14-yard line. You kick a field goal. That's just not good enough. It's 2026. Every other coach is going for it there. Just because you have a good defense does not mean you get to abandon just modern thinking out there. They needed points because, as we saw the rest of the game, the Texans offense was not guaranteed to go down the field like they were on that drive. That was a very good opportunity for them to score 7 or 8 points instead of 3 points. And then later in the game, with 4 or 5 minutes left, that freaking punt is just pathetic. And that's where it goes back to the 4th and 2, where you only need 2 yards in that one. You want to go for it in those situations. So when it is 4th and 18 and you're only down a score, you can actually just punt the ball and not get ridiculed out there. So DeMeco Ryans, I think he's obviously a very good defensive coach here. I do think that the decision-making and the offensive coordinator hires the last couple off seasons here have really left something to be just something that they can improve on moving forward there. So we'll see. Lots of questions for the Texans offense. They need better offensive linemen. They need better running backs. I believe they have 6 picks in the first 4 rounds out there. I would not be surprised if running back is on the agenda because Woody Marks loses his shoe, runs into a backup offensive lineman there, tries to kick it back outside and loses a fumble there. I've not been a huge fan of Woody Marks' tape this year. So CJ Stroud, man, I just can't believe it's regressed to the point it has. But good call by Brett Coleman, who covers the team very well in our preview channel. Just would say he would only use the 5th-year option, and I think that's going to come to fruition at this point. Number 8, Kayshon Boutte, actually just good. No qualifiers needed. He's just a really good football player. With another big game this last week, he's up to 12.6 yards per target. It's crazy how he can operate because he's still not very fast to me. Sometimes it even looks a little pudgy versus other wide receivers, but that's because his physicality is top notch and his ball skills are top notch. So obviously the one-handed touchdown grab was fantastic. That was one-on-one against Derek Stingley. Doesn't create a ton of separation, but just when you can go with one hand like that and come down with it, you can kind of fight through contact. He's not being pushed out of bounds by Derek Stingley, stays on his lane. Excellent grab there. But also he has a defensive pass interference drawn on Derek Stingley. Once again, by the way, those two guys were up against each other a ton at LSU. They've been teammates before. Those guys who were growing up together. So he had another defensive pass interference against Stingley. That was a big one. Kamari Lassiter crosses his face on a slant route. That was excellent route running. So Kayshon Boutte, He's just getting better and better and better. He gets the most difficult assignments in the playbook among wide receivers, and he's really come down with a bunch of huge grabs for Drake May. Also wanted to kind of play this clip from a press conference where he just talked about his maturity and growing up at LSU. Obviously peaked as a freshman. Things did not go well, slid in the draft. Rookie season was very inconsistent, and then this year he's really taken off.
I would say I wasn't always the person I wanted to be 3-4 years ago. Like I just said in the media, had a lot of off the field stuff, a lot of concerns, character concerns. But I mean, feel like I said, I wasn't where I wanted to be a couple years ago, and I feel like everything finally coming together now. So I mean, it's great to watch the growth tremendously.
So credit to Kayshon Boutte, great story here, overcoming some adversity, maturing. He's 23 years old. And now he's playing like legitimate good football under contract for this year. Same thing with Steph Diggs. Same thing with Kyle Williams. It's probably going to be those top 3 guys moving forward for the New England Patriots. Will Campbell and Jared Wilson, these guys need to be playing better for the Patriots. It was a pretty bad game up front for the Patriots offensive line. You have freak shows in Houston. I totally get it. But the same issues are going to creep up against the Broncos, who just had strip sacks against Josh Allen that we talked about. I think Will Campbell, since he's returned from that knee injury, has just not played well at all. Like in this last game, he was beat inside by Danielle Hunter. He was run right through by Danielle Hunter. And then on the outside, we had the strip sack from Will Anderson here. So his recovery speed right now doesn't seem that impressive to me. And on top of that, he just kind of gets pushed back against bull rushes. So I don't know what we're going to do about that. I think Jared Wilson, their left guard, also a rookie. He hasn't been playing all that well for a lot of the season on top of that. And it's going to be a big deal once again against these Broncos front seven. On the flip side, though, the Patriots are getting excellent play out of Milton Williams coming back from injury. He was fantastic in this one. And then also Caleb Von Chasen. He was kind of looping inside for pressure. He was winning on the perimeter with us as a speed rusher. He was excellent. So this Patriots defense, I thought was pretty mediocre for a lot of the season, but probably since Thanksgiving or so, once they got Milton Williams back in the fold, they've been playing really good ball. Coach Vrabel deserves a lot of credit over there. Lots of confusing reps from CJ Stroud, just not seeing the field correctly, but a lot of it too was just defensive line winning. So right now, Patriots defensive line stock up, Patriots offensive line stock down. It's going to be a big deal against Denver. Battle of the trenches. Last one, 49ers. They at least don't lose that much this offseason. The talent mismatch, just watching the Seahawks and the 49ers in this last game, was so obvious. Special teams, offense, and defense. They need Nick Bosa. They need Fred Warner, Michael Williams, George Kittle, Ricky Pearsall. All these guys got to get back to being fully healthy. It's probably a lot to ask right there. But for the most part, they don't really lose that much this offseason. Brandon Ayuk's going to get released, but he didn't want to show up this last season anyways. Maybe Juwan Jennings walks. There's a couple low-end starters on the offensive line or defense that they'll have to replace. But for the most part, they got a lot of breakout players because of the fill-in opportunities with all these big injuries. Upton Stout was another one of these guys that kind of comes out of nowhere to add some minutes. So I think the 49ers will be back next year, and they'll have a better chance of actually going the distance here. Brock Purdy did not have a good game here, but he was really running for his life. You just felt the Seahawks speed in the secondary versus, Juwan Jennings, Tonjes, those type of guys out in the route, just not good enough. So good news is for the 49ers, cap situation's more under control. They're going to get their best players back out there, and that division's going to be locked and loaded because the Rams don't really lose anybody. The Seahawks don't lose anybody at all, but the 49ers don't, and they will be back in healthier next year. So cool season for the 49ers, even getting to this point. They were completely outgunned. You felt it literally on the first snap of the game. When Shaheed houses that one, that game was pretty much over because the 49ers were just not going to move the ball even with Kyle Shanahan. So those are the 10 takeaways from the divisional round. We'll be back previewing this next set of games here. It's going to be 2 banger games, Sean versus Mike on both sides to get to the Super Bowl. We'll do some fantasy football content. We'll obviously hit on the head coaching news. This is probably the week where we're going to get a bunch of head coaches announced. It sounds like Matt Nagy's the favorite for the Tennessee Titans job. Halfley, the favorite for the Dolphins job. We'll see if somebody emerges for the Buffalo Bills all of a sudden. Maybe it's Jesse Minter with the Ravens. We'll figure all this stuff out probably this week. Go watch our top head coaching candidates list with Roto Pat from last week. Maybe even some fantasy football content coming this week. Who knows? Like, subscribe, buy all the things we're asking you to buy in the ad reads. Play on Underdog Fantasy. Use promo code the show. Play 5, get 75 in bonus funds. Pick'em states. There's brand new ones out there. Lots on the Underdog app. Of course, go play over there. Until then, I'll see you around.